Hey, it's Cafeteria Labyrinth with Mona and the Fatigable Heights. The title of the piece is Discipline Has a Sound, Seeing Masicka Through Purpose, Precision, and Self. I didn't come to Masicka through hype, I came through discipline, through repetition, through watching someone choose restraint in a culture that often rewards chaos. When I listen to Masicka, I don't just hear music. I hear alignment. I hear someone who knows who he is, what he's here to do, and how long he's willing to work for it. This is not a fan piece, this is a recognition piece.
One side to the landslide.
Because some artists entertain you and some artists teach you how to stand. This is Masicka, seen through the eyes of purpose, patience, and precision. Masicka didn't arrive loud, he arrived certain. From early in his career, there was a clarity in his voice, not just lyrically, but spiritually. He never sounded confused, he sounded intentional. In a genre where many artists borrow personas, Masicka refined his own, not rushed, not diluted.
One
His
side
words
to the
reflect a man
landslide,
who
you have to remember
understands
that.
consequence,
We in charge of
who
ourselves, man. No
understands
programming.
patience, who understands that power without control collapses. That kind of self-knowing doesn't come from luck. It comes from sitting within yourself long enough to hear your own voice. That's inner authority. Masicka's career is not a straight line, and that's what makes it honest. He faced industry pauses, setbacks, moments where momentum slowed instead of accelerated. And instead of forcing visibility, he chose refinement. Albums like 438 and Generation of Kings are not accidents. They're the result of time, restraint, and lived experience. You can hear growth without gimmicks. You can hear maturity without softness. That balance is rare.
Remember, we not follow back, we are lead out for we just in our business. You know, I think
Lets the work mature. That tells me everything I need to know about how he sees longevity. This isn't about celebrity, it's about standard. And standards endure. I'm not doing this because something is trending. I'm not doing this because I need attention. I'm doing this because alignment matters to me, especially as a teacher. When I talk about Masicka, I'm not talking about celebrity. I'm talking about pattern. I pay attention to patterns because I teach children. And children don't just listen to what we say, they study what we reward. So before we even talk about music, we need to talk about discipline. We need to talk about repetition. We need to talk about what it looks like when someone commits to a craft quietly while the world is distracted by noise.
not that.
I recognize that kind of work because I live that kind of work. I don't sync with people because we come from the same place. I sync with people because we move the same way. I know what it feels like to prepare in silence, to show up every day knowing you're not being celebrated yet, to keep refining your voice even when nobody's validating it. As a teacher, I practice constantly. Lesson plans don't magically work. Delivery doesn't magically improve. Classroom management doesn't magically become strong. It comes from showing up again and again, adjusting, failing, fixing, and returning. That's the same energy I recognize here.
One side to the landslide.
Masicka doesn't rush his process. He doesn't chase chaos. He doesn't let impulse drive his decisions. There's thought behind his movement. And that matters to me because I want my students to see that there are other ways to be powerful besides being destructive.
We in charge of ourselves, man. No programming.
When I say I sync with him, I'm saying I recognize the discipline of someone who understands time.
We again on top of the gun.
Discipline is misunderstood. People think discipline is restriction. It's not. Discipline is respect. It's respect for your future self. It's respect for your craft. It's respect for the people watching you, whether you ask for that responsibility. What stands out to me most is Masicka's discipline. Not just in work ethic, but in restraint. He doesn't overshare. He doesn't over-explain. He doesn't perform access. In a digital era where visibility is currency, Masicka practices containment. That's strength. His music reflects a man rooted in something deeper than applause. You hear it in the way he speaks about success, about survival, about responsibility. This is not reckless ambition. This is cultivated power. Roots before reach.
One side to the landslide.
That's strength. Masicka is precise. Every bar feels measured. Every silence feels intentional. He doesn't waste words. He doesn't waste emotion. When he speaks on pain, it's contained. When he speaks on strength, it's earned. That kind of lyrical accuracy is discipline at a high level.
Not done, not boss.
A hunter doesn't shoot wildly. He shoots once. That's how Masicka writes. That's how he moves. Masicka matters to me because he reflects the kind of life I'm building. A soft life that still practices, a joyful life that still respects discipline, a creative life that doesn't abandon structure. As a teacher, as a woman, as someone who values mastery over noise, he reminds me that you don't have to rush to be relevant. You don't have to shout to be heard. You don't have to perform chaos to prove strength. You can choose alignment. That's strength. Masicka is not here for a moment. He's here for memory. And the thing about artists like him is that they age well because they were never chasing youth. They were chasing truth. Discipline is misunderstood. People think discipline is restriction. It's not. Discipline is respect. When I watch Masicka perform, I see control. I see intention. I see someone who knows exactly what they're doing with their voice, their breath, their body, their message. That doesn't happen accidentally. That comes from rehearsal, from listening back, from correcting mistakes, from not being satisfied with good enough. I want my students to understand that excellence is not loud. Excellence is consistent. We need to redefine what a win is. A win is not always a trophy. A win is not always a viral moment. A win is not always a...
But we not follow back, we are lead out for we just in our business.
Sometimes a win is restraint. Sometimes a win is choosing not to self-destruct when the industry expects you to. Masicka's wins are internal before they're external. His win is staying focused. His win is evolving instead of repeating. His win is choosing mastery over momentary attention. Those are the kinds of wins I want my students to admire. I work with young people at a stage where identity is fragile. They're deciding who they want to be while the world is yelling at them about who they should imitate. So I'm careful about what I uplift. I don't believe in pretending culture doesn't exist. I believe in teaching students how to analyze culture. Who lasts, who grows, who takes responsibility for their influence, who sharpens instead of spirals. When students see discipline modeled in real life, it expands their imagination. They start to believe that they don't need chaos to be relevant. That's why this matters. I'm not here to tear anyone down. That's not my role. But I am here to show that there are different paths. One path prioritizes impulse. Another builds slow. I want my students to learn how to observe outcomes instead of just being entertained.
One side to the landslide.